He just went out the door. He just left you. This seems so dramatically like, no, everything's okay. Our relationship with KD is okay. Andre Iguodala has done more for this franchise, you could argue, than KD has. There's no whisper of retiring his number. Let's just go ahead and retire Steph, Clay, and Draymond's numbers too. I mean, it seems like a massive overreaction to try to create a sense of all is good when clearly all is not.
Yeah, you don't like the D'Angelo Russell move.
I do not. Look, it's not... People are taking this like I don't like D'Angelo Russell. I actually love the fact that he's restored his image and showed that he can play somewhat. I'm not discounting that. And I think he could be serviceable in a lot of places. He had a good year last year. He just doesn't fit the Warriors whatsoever. As a ball-dominant guy who doesn't play the way they play with a read-and-react offense, and they desperately need defense. He's shown mild interest in that end of the floor. It doesn't fit for what they are. If it's pure asset and they're convinced they have suitors out there, okay, maybe. But as far as him making them significantly better right now, I think they got a lot of things to work out.
Listen, when you have all these stars, try to find that video of Bob Myers when he stuck his foot in his mouth about 2 years ago. Try to find that, and I'll bring it up in a second. Listen, everybody wants stars. The downside to having stars in the NBA, specifically more than any sport, it's the only sport in America that is star-driven. There's stars in football, baseball, but it's really star-driven. You got to take care of them. They're gassed up. Sure. AAU, 1 year of college, they fire coaches, not players. So one criticism I heard of Steve Kerr about 6 months ago from somebody who's in the NBA, he said, Kerr is become like Mr. Pro Player to a fault, watches Twitter. They're like, we don't doubt Steve Kerr is pro player. He was a player. He's a good dude. But somebody questioned, now I'm not saying I believe this, but they questioned Kerr's authenticity, very pro player. And so the downside to having stars is you got to be careful what you say always. This little piece of tape would not be a big deal for the average NBA team, but it's uncomfortable for me to watch. Roll this tape.
And then I heard you tell Kevin Durant he can have whatever contract he wants next year.
Yeah, that was just for the media. He can't have anything like that at all.
Mid-level.
Yeah, mid-level, behind closed doors.
Because I think last year he told Steph he could have any contract he wants too.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah, that was different. He's been here from the run, the way before days. He's earned it.
And there ended the Warriors' cohesion right there.
And by the way, again, on almost every team in the league, it would just be a joke, and you'd move on to the floats and the parade. But I watched that, and I'm like, that's not great.
No. If you're watching Kevin Durant's facial expression...
I didn't like it.
No, that was, without question, that was awkward. And it's one thing to have an awkward moment when you're having conversation within the team.
But
or
public?
On a stage?
I mean, and I love Bob Myers.
Situation?
So again, this feels like to me, when you have these superstars, these are Hall of Fame guys, just like retiring Kevin Durant's jersey, it is a constant PR play.
For sure. Well, and what happens is you can start to get glib, and you can get a little too comfortable, and now you can start making jokes that don't land. And when they don't land in public with someone that you're not rock solid with, and with Kevin, that was always the case. He was always an interloper, and that never quite changed. So then to joke with a guy on that level,
it's rough publicly.
It's a mistake.
It would be uncomfortable at a dinner with you and him publicly.
Yes. It's
that
10 times
joke,
worse.
That joke, having dinner with him, he'd be like, "Dude, not cool. Line crossed."
Right. Or you can text him afterward and go, "Hey, look, that probably was sorry about that. That was probably out of line or whatever." This you can't take back.
No. By the way, I trust my source. I'm told Toronto's meeting Kawhi today.
That I suppose everything was expedited because Originally, he was willing to meet with New York, and they were given the 3rd as a date, and they thought that's way too late in the process. So now that he's got L.A., if he's got everything in L.A. out of the way,
I'm told he does.
I would think that meeting today and then being able to wrap this up before the 4th of July is the timeline now.
Now, everybody is telling me Lakers have seized control of this. That's now maybe, I'm not foot on the ground locker room guy like you. I'm told Toronto still has a very viable shot.
I have been told the same thing. This is what's interesting, and I'm sure you've been through this. I'm sure the viewers have been through this. When you are going on job interviews and you interview in a place and you walk out of it, everybody feels good.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Hey, thanks for the time. We'll get back to you, whatever. And you can walk out of it thinking, hey, you know what? We got a shot. And everybody's feeling good. And then you go to the next one, you go, ooh, I didn't consider that. This looks better than this. And it's not necessarily that you lied to the previous place. It's just you were presented with something new and different, or you had something to measure by. Until he sits down with everybody, I genuinely believe Kawhi Leonard has not made a decision yet, and it's really hard. And look, we do this, who's in first, who is in second, and there may be some real legitimacy to that in who's in the position, but that those positions are still flexible and movable. And I think that's the case here. I still, from everything that I've heard, I have to believe that Toronto has the opportunity to make a convincing case and still keep him.
Remember, Pac-12 schools overlook Kawhi. He didn't have a choice. He was traded out of San Antonio. I can make the argument this is the first time the big boys have shown him love.
Yeah.
Could this just be, and I wouldn't blame him, whoever shows me the most love wins?
This is the difficulty here is that we don't know what the motivation, the primary motivation for Kawhi Leonard is. Now, we're all assuming that it's, well, he wants to win. Well, if he wants to win, he's staying in Toronto. Does he want to go home? Well, then it's to L.A., and it's one of those two teams. Does he want to play with another superstar caliber player? Well, then it's going home, and it's going to the Lakers. So it just depends on which one is his priority, and then how does everything else stack up? And that's what has made predicting what Kawhi Leonard is going to do the most difficult thing, because I've heard people say Kawhi's the kind of guy who says, oh, you want to play with me? Cool. You don't want to play with me? Cool. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And which would lead me to believe he's good with going to the Clippers or the Raptors. On the other hand, I've also been told after winning a championship and being the lead dog and carrying that weight, he's like, you know what? I wouldn't mind having somebody else who knows how to carry that weight on the championship level, right? In that case, there's really only one play. I mean, I guess you could make the argument that Kyle Lowry and those guys carried the weight with him, but true superstar, I can lean on somebody else. That means he's going to the Lakers.
You know what's interesting is Joy had a story earlier today where LeBron did not sell Kyrie on the Lakers. That he knew he was interested. It was not a big sales pitch.
Yeah.
It's very funny. Rich Paul's been telling me all year. And I've been saying, Rich, give me a break on this. All year, Rich, and that's LeBron's guy, and Rich is, and we get along really well. But I have been on him all year. I'm like, just stop telling me LeBron doesn't have any sales pitch. And he has said all year, he has guaranteed me. He goes, LeBron's not doing that.
Yeah.
He is not. And then I see Joy's story earlier, and I'm like, not? Is it possible that LeBron now moving to L.A., a lot of business, got a lot of heat for controlling the Cavs and making deals and liking Shabazz Napier in Miami? Is it possible that LeBron is really disengaged on even the Kawhi stuff?
LeBron has not recruited as much as people have made it out to be. Historically has not done it. Now, and this is what makes it difficult working with LeBron at times, because he has sort of a passive-aggressive approach.
He does.
You have to guess at what he really wants. And if you don't deliver that, then you might be in trouble, and you might be at cross purposes with him. But he's not going to tell you directly, and some of that people have suggested is because now he's on the hook for this is what you asked for. I mean, David Griffin went through it with Cleveland, where he's like, I got this idea, I got this idea. And LeBron was like, oh, you can't do that. And David Griffin goes and do it. It wasn't like, hey, can you do that? Or, hey, this is what I want. It was, oh, you can't do that. Well, ultimately, it's still a matter of it has to work out. What David Griffin's doing has to work out. And if it doesn't, LeBron can say, well, I never signed off on that. I never asked for that. So it removes him from being directly responsible for whatever transpires, unless it goes south, and then he's going to let you know, I'm not happy with this.
Yeah.
It is a tough spot to placate LeBron without knowing exactly what it is that he wants.
What it does is what you said. It creates confusion. I've also said for years, Aaron Rodgers is a little passive-aggressive. And what does it create? Confusion.
Sure.
Greg Jennings, Jermichael Finley, Mike McCarthy. Kobe Bryant never had passive-aggressive. He didn't like Smush Parker. He did like Derek Fisher. Michael Jordan punched a teammate. When you're passive-aggressive, it creates confusion.
Sure.
LeBron's created it. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay has created some of this. Is Aaron on my side? Does Aaron like me? Is Aaron mad at me? It's a reality of that sort of personality trait.
Well, yes. And what it does, the troubling part is then there's no accountability. Like, I want a guy who says, this is what I want, and I go get it. And then if it doesn't work, they're willing to accept, okay, you gave me what I wanted and it didn't work. That's on me. If you can get people to do things and try things to try to please you, and then you can kind of sit back and say, well, I like that or I didn't like that, based on how it turns out, not what you initially wanted, well, then you're in the driver's seat. You're never culpable for when things go south.
Rick Bucher, how long? You're in town all week.
I am here all week.
Well, there's a lot going on in this big city.
There is.
A lot going on here.
Good fish in the city.
Good fish.